Well, welcome to another video on the science of storytelling, where we talk about the ways in which story is a fantastic business communication tool. And today we're talking about how story can be used to correct misinformation. Now, in 1994, a very interesting piece of research was conducted, and what they did is they got a group of people and they explained to them that there'd been a fire and that the fire had been caused by a short circuit. But next to the short circuit, there was a closet that contained oil-based paints and pressurized gas bottles that had accelerated the fire. So everybody got that message. They were then, the entire group were then told to ignore the information about the pressurized gas bottles and the oil-based paints that had accelerated the fire, because that wasn't actually correct. Right? So just ignore that information. That's the instruction they were given. Half the group were then given another piece of information, and that was, instead of oil-based paints and pressurized gas bottles, there were petrol-soaked rags and empty fuel cans in the cupboard, and so there was the possibility of arson. Right? So they've now got two groups that have got different pieces of information. Each group started with the same piece of information. Anyway, when they were later questioned about their explanation of what had happened, the group that were told to ignore the information about the pressurized gas bottles, well, they explained the fire. There was a short circuit and it was accelerated by the gas bottles and the oil-based paints, even though they've been told to ignore that information. Right? So the facts, no, you should ignore that information. The facts did not overturn the story that they'd been told. The second group, however, every single one of those explained the fire had been caused by the short circuit and the oil and the petrol-soaked rags, so arson. Right, so two things to learn from this. The first one is that there's many situations where we meet people that have got strongly entrenched views. They're telling themselves a story, and if we just give them logical argument, facts, we're not going to change their minds, as we saw with that first group. But if you give them a different story, a plausible alternative story, you've got a much better chance of correcting the misinformation, of overcoming the entrenched view. So it's one of the real superpowers about the use of story, and the science is really compelling that supports this. So another great use of story is to overcome entrenched views, correct misinformation. Fantastic in any change management situation. Bye for now.